Good morning and welcome to episode 14 of Legal Content Chat. Every damn week I forget to say this, so I'm going to say it straight away, nice and early. So I absolutely love having you here, guys. But what I'd love even more is if you put your comments and questions in that box below, please, so we can have a nice bit of engagement as we run through. So that's good. I've got that out of the way now. I haven't forgotten to say it. So today's guest, which is very exciting, is a big powerhouse in the legal space, which I've just described her as off camera, and she's like, oh yeah, okay, I'll take that. We've got Kirsty Pappin. She's the founder and director of Aries Legal Practice Management. So Kirsty, you're in the hot seat today. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everybody. Yes, I'm Kirsty Pappin. I am the founder and director of Aries Legal Practice Management. As I always said to Becky before, nothing's official until it's on LinkedIn. So launched in March of last year, so we're about to come up to a year. And Aries Legal Practice works with various SME law firms throughout the UK and more recently internationally as well, providing fractional practice management, bespoke projects and ops consulting, which is, very varied and exciting. And more recently have become a trainer and writer with the ILFM, and have just yesterday announced that I'll be doing a project mentor legal tech for the City University of London, which is very exciting. And I'm going to do a small plug for a book as well, if that's okay, Becky. But the Sean Jardine did ditched the billable hour by Sean, and I'm a wise person, so I love that. I feel like I've got what wise in before I'm 40. So yeah, so that's great. So no, that's what I do. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kirsty. And a special thanks to you today, because you are actually joining us all the way from Australia, and it is way past my bedtime in Australia over there. But I know that you're a bit of a night owl, so I don't think it's too much of a bother for you, is it?
No, not too much at all. So yeah, it's about 10 hours ahead at the moment. So yeah, definitely dark outside, shall we say.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, cool. Well, let's get into it, because today we're going to be talking about legal practice management and how you can improve processes and all that kind of fun stuff at your firm. And as Kirsty is the expert in that space, it seemed only right to get her in to talk to us about it. So let's just hear a little bit about your background. And how did you first get going really with legal practice management? What was the first thing?
I think really I had been doing it in my roles from, let's say, day dot. Always been doing some sort of management, even when I was sort of waitressing in my teens, working with new recruits and rotors and everything else that comes with those sort of roles. And then as I started into legal practice, I did a law and sorry, in-laws just going to bed there. I thought then sort of did my law and accounting degree, did an LPC, and was at Herbert Smith, and I remember thinking, I actually don't want to be a lawyer. I really enjoy the projects that I was working on. I really enjoyed the sort of more management leadership, and started watching a few people that work in various business administration roles. I thought, actually, this is the route I want to go down and work on more the business aspect of running a law firm than actually the fee earning, money making aspect. And that's where it all sort of the fire was lit, and it started growing from there really. And it's just been a journey ever since.
I love that. I do love that. And knowing you as I do, you're a very organised lady. So you are probably similar to me. I'd almost say bordering on bossy a bit. So I can imagine that this is something that you're very good at.
Yeah, I must say it's definitely something that I found has been really important in the role, especially in more of the sort of the early days. You need to be incredibly organised, and how I've gone about that has changed so much over the years. I think even right up to the other day, sort of mentioning in a video on LinkedIn how I'd actually got a wall planner and put up key dates. When something flies up from various clients, I'm like, oh, can I do that date? Instead of having to even go into the close down, I just look left and I'm like, oh, that date is not available, and I can move on. But I think, yeah, definitely. And I think you have to be organized, because you're spinning. Practice managers are always spinning so many plates. They're very much a linchpin within a law firm. And they're doing everything from, you know, they could be overseeing finance and compliance. Even if you've got specialists in those areas, they still have to have a real good understanding of how things work with the SRA. They need to have a full sort of head on for people and HR. They need to be then looking at recruitment. Then you've got the building maintenance and everything that comes with that, and everything down to printers and stationery and all that in between. So it's very, very busy and very roles. So yeah, organized helps.
Yeah, sounds absolutely exhausting. So what about some key trends that you might have seen? I mean, you've been in the legal space for over 20 years now, without giving away your age. What about any key trends that you've seen? Would you like to share some of those with us?
Yeah, so and just if my eyes go, it's because I have made notes. So sorry to everybody if it looks like I'm playing watching a game of tennis. The key trends, the big one, it's the one that, you know, we're all discussing at the moment, is legal tech. Legal tech has changed so much in 20 years. You know, I remember walking in, as many will recall, dictaphones were a thing, and my very first job in Herbert Smith was a filing clerk. So that's how I got in the door, was taking a role as a filing clerk there in insurance litigation department. And every single piece of correspondence was printed, stapled, and filed in massive sort of, I can expect massive Rolodexes of correspondence, and I'd be up and down a store filing it for each individual matter and client, and, you know, client matters and everything else. So the fact that we've gone from that to full on, you know, intuitive case management, practice management systems and everything else, that's the biggest, you know, they're the biggest trends. The other is the way that people are in their behaviors in work has changed a lot. I find that people are a lot more empathetic in the legal industry, and a lot more understanding to the changes that have taken place, whether it's things through, you know, the recent pandemic, or whether it's been to do with sort of home working, or where you have more of, you know, 2 full-time working parents, you know, lots and lots of different things. But I think they're the two biggest things, because I find that I wouldn't get a white book fly past my ear now, whereas maybe 20 years ago that could possibly be a thing, or maybe was, who knows. But yeah, so I think they're the biggest things.
Yeah, okay, that's really interesting. And that actually harks back a little bit to the conversation I had with Stephanie Costi the other week, which we were talking about kind of very old school practices in law firms and things that thankfully do not happen now, hopefully.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's a lot of things that have changed now. I think the days of being, and I don't like it, but, you know, the term, but sort of being shouted and feeling quite small, they've gone. People are now more, they want to be leaders. They're not just they're not de facto leaders. They want to grow teams. They want to, you know, better everything and keep the staff that they have and grow and nurture. And I think that's something I really, really like. But where, especially with, you know, smaller law firms, there's this, you know, a couple of my clients I have, you just, you know, I went to a team day for one, and you could just feel the collegiality in the room and how everybody just embraced each other, and you could see they wanted to grow the firm. Mm-hmm. They were they weren't just a number, they were really invested in the future of that firm, and more SMEs are seeing that. And I think, you know, it's not just the managing partner that's driving growth, it's all the way down to the, you know, the admin assistants and everything in between.
And that makes change management so much of an easier task, doesn't it, when everybody is on board with them making any changes and making things better. It's not a case of, this is what we're telling you to do and you're going to have to do it now.
Oh, completely. And I think, yeah, change management is one of the things that, you know, we had discussed pre this live today, is that, you know, you do have, depending on the firm, you do have those that are like real drivers for change, you know, real change champions, and they're like, yeah, let's go for it. And you're going to have those that sit on the fence and they don't quite know, and they normally get taken across the journey quite easily. But I find that as time's going on, there are less skeptics, which are really hard to bring through. But sometimes that those, and we all have those biased sort of stereotypes of who would be a skeptic, but sometimes they're the biggest advocates for change. I worked with one law firm that needed a complete IT the IT infrastructure needed completely changing. There were plasters on top of plasters on top of plasters, and they had to rip it all out and replace the entire lot. And it was expensive. These things aren't cheap. For those that have done that, it's painful in relation to the cost that needs to be put up front. But what the person that I thought was going to be like, no, I don't want to do this because of the change of the tech, was actually and was due to retire, was the biggest push for change.
Wow.
They were like, do it. This is going to make everything better for everybody. And they were going. It wouldn't have made any difference to them, but they could see how important it would be for everybody underneath, and had listened for years of people groaning and griping about the system. So I think, definitely makes change management a lot easier as time goes on.
Yeah, so that person must have been thinking, oh, well, I wish this was coming in when I was actually still working here. It's coming in and now I'm going out the door.
Yeah, quite possibly.
So as someone like yourself who's worked with UK and US law firms, are there any noticeable differences that you have seen or do see about legal change management or legal practice management? Anything that's really obvious?
I think in relation, so with US firms, they're headed out of the US. And even from my experiences speaking to others, so I've only ever worked in large US firms, but from speaking to others that work in other US firms that I've built relationships with, they see the same thing, is that everything, you can come to a decision in the UK, but it goes through the US and they make final calls. So it seems really laborious to try and get anything through. But I think in general, it's just the sense of the firm is just very different. US firms are, from my experience, have predominantly been more aggressive in their overall nature. That for me, I feel like that stereotype is very much true. UK firms not so much, and I find that SME firms are different in the UK again from large UK firms. But it's a different. It's like it genuinely is like comparing oranges and apples. Although they're law firms, they're completely different, and I think putting them under the same sort of umbrella is quite unfair, which is why I like working with SME firms, because they want to get into the nitty gritty, and you can see how everybody's entwined and wants to move forward, and practice managers, they literally are, I mentioned before the linchpin, but in a large firm you have head of HR, a head of diversity and inclusion, a head of IT, a head of compliance, etc., etc., etc. The practice manager is all of those heads and more, and will report into a managing partner, or probably another partner that may be COFA or COPA, wherever they sit. And probably, depending on the size of the firm, again, you might have a finance manager. And I always advocate that when an SME gets big enough, if they haven't outsourced their cashiering function, they need an in-house cashiering function, because those two roles, it's very difficult to do the day-to-day parts of running the business of a law firm and dealing with finance. We don't want anything, going wrong with that. And then you've got the compliance as well, but they wear all those hats, and it's a really busy role. And I think, and with I guess the greatest respect to those that have had SME firms for a long time, legacy firms, I don't always think they quite understand the role of the practice manager and how time intensive it can be to do certain things. So when you're busy dealing with the day-to-day and then you throw a project in, it's like, whoa. And I did that. I worked with a couple of great firms when I was practice manager, and dealing with the day-to-day, but I had so many projects and they were all going on at the same time, and I worked long hours, and I was lucky at the time I was able to do that. But when we came to the end, it's like, it took probably close to sort of 18 months for all the projects to come together. When you're rebranding and using new websites and a new HR system and new fee earner and bonus models and everything else, it's really hard to just snap your fingers and that all happened. So I think I want to just, utmost respect for every practice manager out there. I understand how hard that role can be, and not hard because it's a difficult role to understand and do, just what's required within it sometimes.
Yeah, I completely get that. That's really interesting. So going back to legal tech for a moment, because I don't think we can go too long without talking about legal tech.
No, we have to chat about legal tech.
Yeah, we do have to do that. Making rapid advancements. Things are happening every day in the legal tech space, and it's really hard to keep up. How do you see it impacting the future of legal practice management and operations?
So yeah, I've been giving this quite a bit of thought lately. I think there are 5 things that I think are going to be the changes for the role, and actually I think they've already started to happen, is the use of project management tools. So there are lots there are lots of things you can do with an Outlook to help you, but there are things then also like Asana that is quite an easy, there's a free version that you can use, and you can pay for something that does a bit more, but being able to use those to track different things that you're doing, because I think practice management over time, depending on the SME law firm, will there'll be more projects and things that are coming on to try and when these firms want to grow and move forward. I think I looked on the SRA website last night, and I think there are just over 9,300 law firms in the UK as of January 2024. Of those, let's just take out the top 500. The rest are much smaller firms. So and a lot of those are going to be wanting to drive forward and grow, and if they're not looking at having going through the M&A route and stay as they are and protect themselves for the future, practice managers are going to be doing more projects to help that happen, because again, they're that linchpin to drive the firm and work with the partners and so forth going forward. I think another one is going to be much more sort of clear. Everyone communicates, but I think communication is going to be really important, and that will be essential through those project management tools, through that sort of tech and people understanding where projects are. And that comes back into the organised bit we said earlier, is that if you have these project management tools in place, when somebody wants to know where something is, if you become adept at using them, they can just log in and see, okay, well, that's where that is. So you don't go back and forth on these emails so much, because I don't know about you, but so much on email, you're just like, oh God, when was the last email that came in? And then you get the spam through as well, and it becomes just very convoluted. Again, back to the change management. Again, I think that's going to be a massive part of the role, understanding how change management role works, and how empathy is required for certain individuals that are sort of nervous about change, and then linking back again to the communication aspect. That's going to be really important in the role. Leadership as well, so they're not having more of that sort of drive for the growth and the support of the individuals, and looking at others in the team and where they want to move their sort of careers. So if you've got more sort of administrative juniors, what can you do to bring them forward, and sort of motivating them, but also motivating the fee earners as well? And what can you do with, say, with the managing partner when they're looking at sort of delegating work, or when you're looking at sort of salaries and bonuses and performance reviews, and how all those KPIs and everything else interlink, however the firm does it, because there are probably there are hundreds of different ways of doing this. How can you be a motivating voice that is supporting those fee earners as well, because sometimes when they hear it from their sort of their partners and their supervisors, they hear it, but it's nice to have it sort of reiterated and sort of feel like, okay, I am heard, or if they have issues, they know that they can approach the practice manager as well. And I think that will become very important. And also the last one, the fifth one, being a lot to do with, innovation, a word that, 20 years ago, actually, I don't think was probably in my vocabulary. So now head of innovation and I think every other article in LinkedIn has it as well. These are roles, these are things that are happening, and I think practice managers are going to end up working with the managing partners, senior leadership teams, etc., taking more calculated risk to drive the growth of the firm forward, especially if you're a law firm that's not in the now. So if you're still having, if you look around you and you have lots of paper, you're about at least 10, 15 years behind. Again, greatest respect, and I understand it takes time, it takes money and everything else, but now's the time. Those practice managers are going to start taking those risks and looking at systems and tendering and how can we get rid of this, this paper, this kindling, and move forward to bring the firm into 2024 and actually get it ready for 2030 and beyond. So I think, sorry, that's a really long answer, but I think they're the sort of the five key things that can really change in the role. But yeah, I think I could go on and on, but I think they're the important ones for now. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry, everybody.
You're absolutely fine. That was a very good, well-rounded answer to that question. I'm actually going to throw another question at you in relation to that. So what about AI? I mean, I write for quite a few different AI firms in the tech space, and I find it really, really interesting about how AI can improve legal processes and how it works. But obviously there is a lot of skepticism around AI, especially in the legal industry, where it's quite traditional for lawyers perhaps not to like the risk that could be involved. It's a bit of a tricky one, isn't it? So how do you feel about that, and what do you think might change in the future?
So I think, I went to a law firm last year, and there was I forget the gentleman's name, and I'm really frantically trying to get my notes up on this actually from this talk that I heard, but it was discussing AI versus snake oil. And I found, and I actually have started, but not yet finished an article for LinkedIn on this, but it was discussing how essentially the AI that we use now, so narrow AI, is everything we already had before. So everything in our phones, everything that we do, and essentially ChatGPT again is an algorithm that predicts the next word. It's not actually thinking. It's a predictive element and trying to work out from all the data that's thrown in. Now that's a real summary, and I think it's called AI, and that's how we understand it. And there's lots and lots of tech products out there that have AI on, and it's trying to understand where it is that sort of more advanced narrow AI, or where it's more of what it was then called in this talk snake oil. So it's called AI for the sake of it, to get you to buy that product, but actually it doesn't do anything that fancy or that different to say 5-10 years ago. So I think right now law firms should just be playing with it, understanding it. Microsoft Copilot, this is no word of a lie. I went out today, I came home, my computer decided to reset itself, Copilot's jumped in, and there is a whole load of new stuff on my computer because I went through the patchings and the updates and spoke to my IT guy to make sure it was all okay, so I left him with it. But it's now there. Microsoft Copilot is now sitting ready to do it. But and everything, all my client stuff's very secure and everything else, but it's because it's here. It's here, and it's here to stay, and it's growing. So I think law firms need to look into it. I think I read somewhere that if you're not thinking about embracing AI, you're not ready for it by 2030, your law firm, it's not going to survive. That sounds quite an aggressive, and I wish I could reference the article that I read that from, but it was someone had mentioned it on, again, LinkedIn. But I think you need to start tinkering with it and having a look, if you haven't yet, allow your staff to have a play with these things in a secure way and come back and feedback. Have a roundtable and say, you know what, I played with some AI products. I did some tendering, and these are the results. This is my feedback. I think this is great. This isn't, and just get this data, because without any of this data, you can't actually have an informed decision about AI. It's no good just saying, oh, AI, oh no, we're not going to do that, or it's this or it's that. You need to feel it. You need to do something with it to be able to inform your own decision. And then with that, where do you go next? Plan something, have a little look around. So I think I didn't get the article, the notes that quick enough, so we just have to wait for when I put out the article sometime in the next week or so. But yeah, I think that's where we're going with AI.
Yeah, we'll hang on for that. We'll wait with bated breath for that article when you get your hands on it. That would be good. I mean, it is incredible. It's incredible, and I've worked with some really, really forward-thinking tech companies that are doing amazing things in the legal space, and even just crazy simple, I should say crazy simple things, but probably the simplest use case is just extracting data from volumes and volumes and volumes of paperwork. That is just such a time saver. And then for example, in litigation cases, you can extract what you need, you can form your argument so much quicker than the opposition can if you know the story in a fraction of the time. So there are really, really positive use cases, and I don't think that AI will ever replace lawyers. I'm actually writing an article about that at the moment, interestingly enough, but I think it's a case of working together and using the expertise of both.
Absolutely. I think you're completely right there. I don't think it's going to replace lawyers. It's not going to replace practice managers. I think AI will make the role of probably a practice manager, allow them to be more efficient and do different things in different ways, and be able to, help drive growth. Probably, instead of working maybe a 50-hour week, they might actually just work their 35, 40-hour week. It's going to allow them to do what they can do a lot quicker and, as I said, more efficiently. And I think and the same for lawyers. Again, it could be like that, but I know a lawyer very closely, and I see how I understand how complex the work that they do is. I cannot fathom how any AI could ever come to the conclusions this person comes to, but it could happen. But I think for now, you need someone to have that really complex understanding. But again, AI can pull the relevant information to at least get you started. And I think, I think for a lot of lawyers and practice managers and all the admin roles, I think understanding how to use that is going to be how the role changes and develops as well. Is that how do you put in the instructions to gather the data to take next steps?
I think so as well. I think that's what will happen next. It'll be more of a kind of learning the prompts and learning the best way of extracting the information that you want. I completely agree with that. So tell me about some common situations that you come across in your role. Have you got any funny or interesting stories to tell us?
I think the most common that I have come across over the years is unfortunately the poor IT sort of infrastructure, the daisy chains, the broken boxes, wires hanging on by literally a thread, dangerously close to fire. I think one managing partner I had said that there were three options with this. Was that one, we spend the money, we do this and everything's great. Two, you don't do it and we part our ways and that's great, thank you very much and I wish you all the best. Or three, I do, that happens as well, you don't do it and I wish you and your law firm burns down. Because he was trying to give the extremities of what was happening. I think we had I don't know if you remember those tower boxes, white tower, not even a black tower, white tower box. I remember going past one of the offices, it was smoking. Oh, we can just get, and the partner was like, we can just change the fan. I'm like, no, we can't just change the fan. This is an issue, and there is paper everywhere. So that happens, and I think as well, people that have put in case management systems sort of 8 years ago as well, they haven't kept up to date. Or there are a lot of legacy systems out there that need to sort of move forward, and I think that's something that's starting to come up a lot as people contact me and say, we've had this system in, it doesn't work, or another company has bought it out and you can clearly see that they're not doing anything to keep it moving. So we need to move. That is a very common situation. Again, and the other one is compliance as well. Everybody's really panicking on their compliance, but they don't. And they have this like add-on compliance, but it doesn't give them really what they need, and it panics partners and those own their law firms, and so they're like, okay, can you help us look at alternatives and tenders and what can we do to make sure we've got everything in place, because we don't want the SRO knocking on the door. That's like a genuine fear for a lot of people. Or and I've had practice managers sort of reach out as well and say, how would you approach this with the I don't feel comfortable with the compliance in our law firm. How would you speak? How do I best go to my my managing partner and say we need to fix this? And they, because that sort of they have a fear as well that actually there'd be repercussions on them because of the role that they're in. So it's that's quite dark, but that is also happening. And the other, I think, as well, is a lot of in sort of just very loose processes around people and HR and salary increases and performances just don't take place, and it's just and people just feel sometimes a bit unloved, and so trying to get those sort of things, they're the sort of the three I think I'm seeing a lot of at the moment, more than anything else.
Makes sense. And you make a really good point there about compliance as well. It's not just the law firm that can get into trouble if your compliance isn't up to scratch. It's each individual person that works in that firm as well. Everybody can be held accountable. So it's a real thing that everybody needs to take responsibility for. It's not just the managing partners, is it?
Yeah, it completely. And I think as well, I think a lot of it is the training that they feel they receive is just it's not, you can't be one and done. And I guess that's a whole other session. That's another LinkedIn Live.
Yeah.
And there's lots of amazing people out there that do compliance training. But I think some law firms, they think they're giving their staff the training, but the staff don't feel like they have the training. They don't know what their risk assessments are, or how to risk assess a client or a matter, because the policies are just so convoluted, they don't understand them. So then they don't want to ask the questions. One, they don't have time, and two, they feel embarrassed.
Because they feel it's something they should know
as well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I see. Cool. So what about the future? Let's talk about the future for a moment, and legal practice managers. How do you see it evolving in the next few years, the role? Is there anything pivotal you think might happen?
I think the role so very similar to as I said before, I think there's the three key things are going to be project management, innovation, and leadership. I think they're going to be really important for the role going forward. And I think practice managers are going to have to be the ones that are shaking, because I think sometimes depending on the firm, some of the partners are entrenched in doing fee earning work, but they don't have time to think about the growth and the forward future proofing of their firm. So the practice managers just have to have this is the third of my C's of my. I always like to go communication, change management is courage. You need to have courage and just go up there and shake your managed partner and go, we need to fix this, but don't just go up and say we need to fix it. Get some plans together. So look, I think this is a problem we have. Here's an idea I have, and I don't have time to do it, but this is how I'm going to go about doing it, or whatever it is. And then they're always going to say, what's the cost? So without try and have some idea of what cost may be associated, and if not, just say, look, I haven't looked at cost yet, because it could be it could be here, it could be there, or I don't want to waste our time if this is something you're not even going to sort of consider. If they say it's just down to cost, then run out there and start tendering. But I think they're going to be the massive drivers in some law firms.
Yeah, shaking everything up. I love that. So what's your key piece of advice?
Shake them up. Yeah. Sorry?
Shake them up. Love it. I was just going to ask you, what about your key piece of advice for somebody aspiring to lead a law firm properly in today's dynamic landscape? Sounded like ChatGPT then, didn't I? Today's dynamic landscape. It's a classic intro, isn't it?
So to lead a law firm, and a leader, I think that can be anybody in a law firm. So you don't have to be a manager to be a leader. You can be inspiring, and you can bring out leadership, in whichever role. But when I guess in the context of our conversation being sort of managers and partners, I think key bit of advice is literally those things: embrace change, communicate, and have courage. But if you can do those three, I think you're on a winner. I think it's this is my thoughts, but I think, you know, I can't see how anyone could go far wrong from sort of going down that track. I think that's law firms are going forward, and if you want to be dynamic, you've got to speak up. You can't not. So for those out there that are practice managers that want to shake their law firm up, I'm really trying really hard not to swear here, Becky. I'm doing really well so far.
You actually are. I did have a very sweary one a couple of weeks ago, and I had to tick that explicit content button. I was like, hello, this is next level.
No, I've really behaved myself today. So yeah, I think if you want to do that, just go for it. You know, and if anyone wants to ever chat offline, you know, send me a DM and whatever, and we are happy to do so. But I think, yeah, go for it. Don't be afraid. I think if you don't move those law firms forward, they're gonna fall, and someone else is going to come and buy you, or you're going to have the SRA knock on the door, or you're going to have no succession plan in place, and it's going to have, you know, issues, you know, further down the line. Again, there's so many more things, you know, we can discuss. But I think, yeah, take that courage and move. Go.
Yeah, it's about getting your head out of the sand, isn't it? Because if any of those outcomes happen, they're all bad outcomes. You know, it's no good will come of any of those things, not making any changes. So yeah, stand up. And I was going to say, that's great that you're out there for people to DM if they feel like they need some support, or Definitely. They're not sure what direction they need to head in. That's really helpful.
Yeah, and I think one last thing on that is, I mentioned I did a live with Rob Hannah, is that practice managers, you know, your superheroes, wear that cape, own it, and fly, go. I think you know, you are superheroes, and you're, you know, linchpins in your law firm, so own it, go for it.
Awesome. Very inspiring words from Mrs. Pappin here. Are you Ms. or Mrs.? I don't want to. I know you are married, but
I am. I'm Mrs. Very much Mrs.
You are Mrs. I don't like to assume nowadays. You just never know, do you?
No. That's okay. No worries. I don't mind. But yeah, it's always nice to ask. I've never been
nice
called
to ask. Exactly. So what's coming up with you next? What's happening with your business that you can tell us about?
Yeah, sure. So I'm doing really kicking off stuff with the ILFM. So I've had a couple of just sort of articles come up. I'm writing a guide on crisis management for them, which is I haven't got a release date as yet. That's still in the works, but that's being sort of pushed forward. We also have, I think it's, God, I'm going to get the date wrong myself. It's on the ILFM website, but it's we're doing a sort of ops risk crisis management 1 hour CPD accredited sort of online training. So I'm going to start doing training sessions as well. So that's really exciting. Really growing, looking at sort of the fractional management aspect as well. So I have, a couple of clients that have fractional support, doing projects for others, lots of strategy days as well. So one of the big things that's starting to take off is going in and sort of just deep diving across the entire practice management aspect of a law firm. And sort of understanding what's in place, what isn't, looking at actionable solutions, where can they move forward, and sort of producing sort of a tangible sort of report. And then with that, they can then take projects on themselves, or they can engage Aries, LPM, or whatever. So there's lots going on there. Looking at release, we're working on a practice managers, office managers sort of superhero club. So sort of peer support as well, and that's in the works for release spring and summer this year. So yeah, just loads. It's just really sort of 2024 is going to be a really good year, I think. I know, I'm not going to think Brilliant. It is. It's going to be amazing. We're going to manifest that. It positivity for everybody, all out there. I love it.
Yeah, we'll pop the links to any events that Kirsty's got coming up in the chat, so you guys can get involved. And yeah, it's been absolutely lovely. So if you or anybody would like to be in Kirsty's hot seat today, anybody that you know, then get in touch with me, because as Kirsty, I'm sure, can attest, it has been bags of fun, has it not?
It has been great fun. I've loved chatting to you, Becky. I do. We have good chats, even online, offline. But no, it's been nice today sharing lots of stuff. But we could chat for ages. But yeah, no, it's been brilliant. Thank you, and thank you for accommodating my time schedule.
Oh yeah, no problem at all. No, we're always happy to accommodate over here. So I've only got 3 requirements for my next for being in the LinkedIn Live hot seat. So you've got to be in the legal industry. That's number 1. And number 2 is that you've actually got to be an interesting person. We don't want any awkward silences, because that is just not my jam. And 3, I actually have to like you as well. So no pressure. But please let me know if you would like to be on our LinkedIn Live, because you can get your message across to the wider audience and spread the passion about whatever subject you're interested in. And next week, we've got legal headhunter Liz Smith, who is going to be talking about the power of talking. Anybody that knows Liz knows that she absolutely advocates talking and how important it is for building relationships in the workplace. So that is going to be a good one. So make sure you register for that. So thank you, everybody, for listening in. Thank you, Kirsty, for coming all the way from Australia and staying up late. I hope you're going to go to bed soon, because I don't like to think if you stay up all night.
Thank you very much.
I think you are very welcome. And I will catch you soon.
I will do. Thank you. And thank you for everybody. And have a wonderful rest of your Valentine's Day.
Yes. All right. Over and out. Thank you.